What's up, guys? Episode number 18. I guess I should say guys and girls. But anyways, today we have Dallin Cottle on the show. So fun story about Dallin. I actually went to high school with this kid and we did not reconnect until just barely. So we ended up going in the same field of online marketing. He is an expert in lead generation and sales for any type of consultant. So he helps life coaches, consultants get more leads and sales. So let's hear about his processes and what he does. So let's dive in. Okay, what's up, Dallin? So today we have Dallin Cottle on the show. So Dallin, tell us your backstory of how you got into online marketing.
Yeah, man. And again, appreciate you having me on the show. Really
Not a problem, man.
Yeah. So my backstory, well, I guess we'll just kind of start just like career, kind of how I got into online marketing. So I got a degree in political science, and that is what got me no job prospects immediately after I graduated.
That's hilarious, but not hilarious. But yeah, it is.
Yeah. So I couldn't find a job, and so I was basically stay-at-home daddy. My wife got an accounting degree, so she got a good job and everything, and I was just kind of sitting at home, and I was just like, dang, like, what do I do? And I found this
sugar
job.
mama is what you got there.
And so I found this marketing job where I was just kind of like a biz dev, right? I was just kind of like qualifying leads that came into the marketing company. And man, I just ate it up. I had this opportunity to talk with like just hundreds and hundreds of different businesses, right? From all around the world. I was talking to guys in Australia and England and like, South America and just all over the place, like at this marketing company. And it just got me into this, like, I just started learning all about these different businesses and how they operate and what they needed to do to be profitable. And it was exciting. So I just dove right in. I learned everything I could about Facebook ads and Google ads and everything that we were promoting. And, that's just kind of where I got my start. And I started, kind of moving up within that organization. And then eventually, found myself kind of doing my own thing. So that's kind of where it starts. It's just a place of confusion, getting a degree that didn't help me out.
Yeah, I would say it definitely did not help you out getting you into the online marketing space, but hey, you're here now.
Yep, exactly. But it is interesting, man, because it's like there was a lot of research that went into like that degree, right? A lot of like just like learning how to learn and find out different pieces of information. And then also just like data and like statistics, like polls and running, voting and stuff like that in a political campaign. And human psychology is very similar to the way that you target people on Facebook and the way that people behave. So it's like, it kind of relates, but it wasn't just like, hey, I could go get a job in marketing, like right out of my degree, right?
Yeah, no kidding. Well, and it's changing so fast that it's like, can college really keep up with it?
Exactly. Yep.
Like,
exactly.
I think it's evolving so fast that, like, in my opinion, universities are outdated when it comes to online marketing. So,
yes.
But anyways, man, so what are you an expert in? What have you kind of niched yourself in?
Yeah. So we started out as kind of doing a little bit of everything in the online marketing space. But in the last year, we've made this transition where we build automated marketing funnels for life and business coaches. So like very, very hyper niche, like we're only working with coaches, like basically your small scale, like Tony Robbins, right? These people who have a little tribe or people that they're trying to reach with a very specific message and they can help them. That's what we're targeting. It's been a lot of fun. So.
That's awesome, man. So why did you end up in this niche? Like, how did you find this niche? Like, why have you become an expert in this niche?
Yeah. So just so happened that a few of our clients were coaches and we were just dominating their campaigns. And I can tell you a little bit about those a little bit later, but basically we were just doing a really, really good job. And it's kind of at that time when I hired a business coach to help propel the business, and meeting with him just kind of made such an impact on me. I was like, man, everybody that's starting a business should be working with a coach or somebody who knows a lot more than them. Right. And so I said to myself, from a place of just passion, how cool would it be is if, using our marketing tactics that we're driving for these other coaches, let's just help basically be the voice for all of these other coaches out there that really need help. There's too many like online programs and different little gimmicky things for coaches, and everybody wants to be a coach and everybody thinks they're a life coach. But at the end of the day, like most of these people, if they're really good at being a coach, like you said, just barely, like you can't be an expert at Facebook advertising or marketing if you're a life coach. Like you're basically trying to do two things that are very, very different, right?
Yeah.
And so we kind of help that person who knows their message but doesn't want to have to deal with the headache of building everything out, that wants a funnel that actually works, and that's where we come in.
Okay, that's awesome. So your niche is basically life coaches, health coaches, anybody that does some sort of coaching. You go in and you get them leads and sales.
Correct. Yep, exactly.
That's awesome, man. So obviously, like the last podcast I was on with a guy that I used to work with, basically he said 40%, in his opinion, 40% of campaigns actually fail. You know, because the reality of it is in online marketing, like we have campaigns that fail us, right?
Yeah.
So what is a marketing campaign that actually failed you, and what did you actually learn from it?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I think that like, you know, thinking about failed campaigns, it's interesting. Most of those failed campaigns happened when I was a little bit more premature in understanding online marketing as I was learning and figuring things out, right? And it's funny because like the campaigns that I see that failed were mostly early on, but it was because I was charging, you know, $300, $500 for just about everything when it came to marketing, because I was cutting my teeth on stuff and figuring stuff out, right?
Yeah.
They had low budgets, and so they weren't really as committed. They didn't have the same level of sophistication or business savvy as maybe some of my more, you know, recent clients, right? And so there's kind of a mixed bag of like, you know, us learning, right? But also like you have to have enough money to be able to promote, right? So it's like, oh, here's a couple $100 to test something out. Like, of course it's going to fail because you don't have enough data to really make any strategic decision and be able to kind of, you know, keep the campaign going, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a big part of it, is just positioning yourself as a marketer that actually can help somebody, right? So I see that kind of across the board with a few like failed campaigns, just not having enough out there. And me not having the insight initially to be like, okay, this is not going to work because of XYZ, right? Being a little too optimistic, right? About the outcome. So.
Okay. So basically from what you said, it sounds like it failed you because of like maybe processes in business, their business processes then?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then also like, they failed because they didn't have enough ad spend essentially, correct?
Correct. Yep, exactly.
So what would you say is like that sweet spot then for ad spend? How much do you need to be spending a day, do you think, to really get the data you need and to produce the results that you need?
Yeah, so I have a totally different methodology now that I follow with our coaching clients. If you don't mind, I can dive into that a little bit, and it will kind of help answer this question. So
go for it.
We go through a phase of like 3 different testing phases. And so what that does for us is we realize that, you know, we kind of went from that, you know, seeing those failed campaigns, not having enough money, to actually getting the clients who are ready to spend, you know, 10 grand in a month plus, right? You know, up all the way up to 50 grand a month that we've been managing. And so we've seen kind of a mixed bag across the board. We're like, hey, we need a lot of ad spend, right? To be able to make this thing work, right? And then we kind of see that we were wasting a lot of money too. And so what we did was we kind of, you know, took a step back after, you know, collecting all this data and learning and, you know, actually using mentors and other resources to kind of learn little insights, right? We created this kind of 3-step testing phase, where the first phase, like when we start working with the client, we really dive into understanding who their audience is, right? And so we'll create an audience on Facebook or we'll create like these different personas in just like a Google sheet, right?
Okay.
Of like 5 different types of people that they potentially could target, right? If I'm a life coach, maybe there's like this spirituality group of people that they're talking to, or maybe they have an interest in business, or they have an online business. Like we kind of separate all these different people and we run a budget to those different audiences to find out which one resonates mostly with that individual, right? And then once we have that winner, so we only spend a couple $100 finding out who is the right audience. And then the next phase of testing goes into what the lead magnet is, right? What's the hook that people want? So now we know the audience. What does the audience want? And we do the same kind of phase of testing.
Real quick. Yeah. Just in case we have like some newbies on this podcast, explain what a lead magnet is.
Yeah, lead magnet is basically, it can be anything. So we're usually testing like headlines in the ads themselves, like for like a webinar is a good lead magnet, or a 5-step download, like 5 steps to change your, the way that you think about your business or your relationships, right? They'll do like a download. Another lead magnet could be just quite simply a one-on-one strategy call, right? So we're kind of testing out some different methods or ways to be able to talk to those people. And that's what the lead magnet would be.
Awesome. Perfect. Yeah. So that's step 2. So step 1 was find your audience.
Correct. Yep.
Step 2 is lead magnet.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
And then after the lead magnet phase, what's interesting is now we know, okay, let's say they're white collared professionals that, that they responded mostly with a webinar, right? Well, we didn't build the webinar before we ran that test. This is what's amazing about what we've been able to do. It saves us tons of time, tons of energy. We don't have to rely on the client to be able to produce a bunch of stuff before the campaign begins, because we're not going to build a webinar if we don't know who we're building it for or what it is that they actually want, right? And so once we know what they want in that lead magnet, now we get into like this building phase where we'll then start consulting the client and help them through building the webinar, what the opt-in looks like, how they get to that final stage where they can, close that deal, right? So then we build all of that. And then the third phase of testing gets into creative and content testing. So different videos and images and different ad copy, short form, long form. And we just go through a whole series of different tests around how we deliver the message that those people already told us that they wanted.
That's awesome, man. Yep. So basically you have a 3-step process. So you locate the target audience. The next thing you do is you build the offer. And then the next thing you do is dive into creative content, correct?
Correct. Yep, exactly.
That's awesome. That's a great little tip and trick for this audience. So now going back to that question, how do you know how much to spend?
Yeah. So now when we work with the client, we work through those phases, right? So maybe we usually don't spend more than $1,000 figuring all of those things out. So what's really cool about this whole methodology is once we have all that figured out, now we just use a coaching calculator and we say, okay, how much revenue do you want to make this next month? And we just plug in all the metrics that we found during that first 30 days. And we say, okay, you need to make $100,000 this next month. Okay, you need to spend 20 grand, or you need to spend 10 grand, or you need to spend, 50 grand, depending on what the metrics are showing in the funnel that we built, right? So it becomes less of like this guessing game, and it comes more of like, hey, you spend $1,000 with us, we test everything out, and now we can tell you exactly what you need to spend to get, the result that you're looking for.
That's awesome, man. That is so awesome. So basically you just recommend spending $1,000 at least to do testing right up front though.
Yep. With us.
With you guys.
With our methodology. Honestly, if you don't follow this methodology, $1,000 is going to be, you're going to bleed through that $1,000 so fast. It's not even going to be, it's not funny, right? So it's like, as long as you follow a very, very specific methodology and learn and be able to collect that data, then yes, $1,000 is plenty of cash to be able to figure some of that stuff out. So I look at it as kind of like collateral damage, right? Rather than being like, hey, we're going to close a bunch of deals off of these leads, which we typically generate leads. We haven't been able to generate leads over $25 for any of our clients across the board using this methodology. So we know that this works. It's just a matter of we're not looking to close deals. We're just looking to get data. That's all you're using that money for. So.
Gotcha. That's awesome, man. So diving into the next question or the next section of this podcast, what was your first little online marketing success? So that first little online marketing success that helped you and gave you that fire to become an online marketer.
Yeah, great question. So I'd say that it's a fitness client that we started working with. They do, just a little background. They sell like 21-day challenges. So it's an actual like online, they're basically a low ticket offer coach, right? And so they came to us and they had 1 million plus followers on Instagram, same on Facebook. They had this huge audience of people, right? But they didn't know how to kind of like optimize that audience or be able to know how to monetize those people in a very methodical way. And so it was so fun because they had so much content and so much stuff out there that like kind of was what we needed to be successful, right? So they had all the elements that a good marketer could pull and be able to piece it together. And so we just started taking all of that content and testing, kind of going through the same phases, like testing different audiences and lists and lookalikes. And it was crazy because literally like this very first challenge, we spent right around $19,000 in ad spend and generated, it was like 130 plus, in revenue just during that 21-day period of running this challenge.
Great ROI there.
Yeah, exactly. And so it was just a total win. And the biggest thing from it was just understanding where to put the different elements that they had to work with into the funnel, right? Knowing when to put in what the kind of like more lifestyle at the top of the funnel, all the way down to a very direct call to action from that influencer saying, hey, it's time to start, right? Like quit delaying, your fitness. Like we're here to help you. Let's get started, right? Click the button below. And that was it was a huge success, and it just got us all pumped that, wow, we could work with some really cool brands and really drive great results.
That's awesome, man. So basically it was successful, one, because they had a great audience, correct?
Yeah. Yep. It's always like this synergy, right? Between like the client and the marketer, where it's like, if you have nothing to work with as a marketer, like you're bound to fail, right? Which is why qualifying and making sure that you can drive the results is important. But also on the other side, knowing what to do with it. Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. Yeah, so that's one thing I want to talk about real quick. What's awesome is you had like a huge tool. It sounds like the fact that the owner or the operator of this business actually had a great connection with her current audience, correct?
Right. Yep.
Yeah, so from my experience too as a marketer, like that is a huge key to success, is making sure that they're actually doing their part and not just hiring an agency to be like, hey, just make me money.
Right. Exactly.
So,
and you need to do it in like 10 days.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Don't forget that 10 days and I don't do anything. So
yeah, exactly.
yeah, that's a huge problem. If there's a disconnect between the marketing and the business and the audience, I just noticed that campaigns fell. So
yeah, exactly.
Awesome, man. So diving into this next section, what is like your grand slam for success? So you hit it out of the park with these campaigns.
Yeah. So, let me think here. So this would be probably one of our higher end coaches. So that first success was kind of a more of a digital product, online product success. Which I might add, it was a $15 product that we were selling for her.
Okay.
And we were generating $3 sales, on that first campaign. So that was a success, right? So this one's a little bit different because her offer, was a little bit higher. So she had kind of, her goal was to get butts and seats to a book tour event, right? She's this high end, coaching mentor. And so she was struggling before we came into this campaign just to get people to show up to these book tours. She'd get, 15, 20 people to come and listen to her speak and kind of hear about her book. And she was like wanting she wanted 50 or, just under 50. She would be happy, right? At each of these stops. And what was tricky about this campaign, which is why I kind of look at it as like the greatest success, is that it was every single tour stop was at a different location. It wasn't like we just ran the same book tour ads like to the same audience over and over again, and we learned in the algorithm, found the right people and everything else. It was like literally every 2 weeks, like we were targeting, and sometimes it even overlapped, we were targeting a different place. So we were in Baltimore 1 week, we were in Texas the other, we went to California, and we were in Florida, and we're all over the map, right? And so it was like for like 8 weeks to 12 weeks straight, we were just like in a different place trying to find those people, right? And so what's interesting is that methodology that I was talking about earlier, that's what we used, but because it's such a proven method for us, we're able to plug that in and get like really, really quick data for each and every place and get the algorithm to be able to start recognizing what's going on, right? So not to get too much into like the details there, but basically we went into each campaign in every place and we were able to generate 50 to even up to, in one location, we generated 300 people, which they actually had to change venues and get into a different place.
That stinks, man. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, exactly. What a big problem that you want to try to solve, right?
Yep.
So
too many leads.
Exactly. So we were basically selling tickets to this event, which they would go to, and then they would, upsell them on their mentoring program and help these people out, start their journey to basically, create businesses of their own and stuff like that. And so, from that campaign, we spent just under $8,000 and generated close to $120,000 in revenue. Now, that's a great ROI, but what's really important to note there is that that's just within the first 48 hours, or that's 48 hours after the event. So we're not counting the list of people and all the leads and all the other, 50 to 300 people that came into that event that then are now in her ecosystem that now are getting sales and stuff like that. We're just tracking the initial ROI, nothing beyond that. So the level of success in those campaigns was just astronomical, right? We were already getting her a 10 to 13x depending on the location. But in addition to that, it's just this residual effect going forward. So.
Yep. Yeah, it's actually funny. In my last podcast, it hasn't posted just yet, but I talk about the importance of knowing the lifetime value of your customer.
Yeah. Yep. So
knowing like the lifetime value, a lot of times businesses forget to calculate that when, getting people into the door. So if you can break even on your first sell, even to me, that's a success. So
yeah, absolutely.
So that's awesome. So what were some of the failures that happened during this success? Did anything fail during that time?
Well, what was interesting is that like the first couple like stops, it was like they were like, wow, you guys filled the room, but like these aren't our people or they're not all of our people, right? Which means basically that like we were getting people in the seats, like the ads were convincing, people were traveling, they were showing up, but maybe they weren't as qualified for those higher end packages that they were going to upsell on the other side. And so we made a very quick adjustment out of the gate, like after hearing that feedback, and it corrected itself. And that's when we even started getting more leads coming in, but then all the leads that were there were also really, really qualified people that were buying the higher end packages, the $10,000 package or the $20,000 package, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. So when you're talking about your first online success in your Grand Slam, what are you using to drive this traffic?
Facebook. Yep. So
strictly Facebook and Instagram, or?
Yeah. So we'll always test Instagram. We always see kind of like a higher cost. And so we really have to look at the data and say, well, is the higher cost to acquire a customer, is that still worth the overall like revenue on the other side, right? But yeah, this is all just like Facebook and Instagram marketing. We do have clients that we'll do Google ads for, but it's a very different approach, right? It's more intent based. And so like in these cases, like somebody didn't wake up that morning like, hey, I want to go to a book tour. I don't know if there's one here locally, but I'm going to just try to find one on Google, right? It's like, no, like we're just going to show them that ad to the right person at the right time and get them freaking jacked and pumped about coming to this book tour, right? And that's what we did, right?
That's awesome, man. Yeah, it's actually interesting that you mainly run on, you have lower costs on Facebook versus Instagram, correct?
Yep, we do.
So something that's interesting for me is I'm currently running ads for, like an e-commerce store, and my cost per conversion is like $8 lower over on Instagram versus Facebook. So the reason why I bring that up just for the audience is like, test, guys. Like, do testing, figure out what works for your business. So that's
and
look
at also like the stats. Like I'm maybe, I'm kind of guessing here, but I'm guessing that maybe that product is going to be kind of a younger crowd of people that you're possibly selling the e-commerce stuff to. Maybe not.
Ding, ding.
Yep. And so Instagram is definitely for like a younger kind of group of people. Like for these, these coaches that I'm working with, especially the ones that are like kind of higher scale, like they're definitely most, people that are in their 20s aren't ready to purchase a $25,000, 50 grand, mentoring package, right? So like the audience that you're going to find those people at where they have the money and stuff like that are mostly going to be on Facebook because they're older, right? They're more established people. And so there's just kind of a mixed bag, just kind of knowing the platforms as well and knowing kind of, basics. But then again, like you said, testing it out and finding out, where people are going to come through. So
that's awesome, man. Yeah. Another thing I really like is, your audience, your customers. And so I think that's another big thing, from me outside looking in, you really do know your customers, their products, their services. So like anybody that's running campaigns for other people, like you need to be like Dallin Cottle here, guys, and really know your customers and what they're offering. So congratulations on that. Like I'll give you like a gold star for that, dude.
Well, let me give you, if you don't mind, I'd love to give like two different things on that. So one is that like we run all these tests for, getting our own leads for our agency, right? So like we definitely tested and we know that audience from like a lead gen standpoint. But then like I've gone to like conferences, I paid really good money to be in rooms with these coaches and these people that we're working with to really, like you said, like understand what it is that their pain point is, right? Like what do they really want, right? And if you can understand what that audience really, really wants, right? What's the struggle? What's the pain? That's all that marketing is, right? Is just like understanding where people are at and giving them something that gives them like that hope, right? It's like, this could be different, right? Your life could be different, or your business could be different, or look how this could change everything for you, right? That's really what it is when you get down to it.
Yep. Amen to that one. Amen, dude. So I'm going to dive into this real quick. Like anybody that's running Facebook ads for the first time, let's just say, they're a smaller business, they can't afford an agency. What types of tips would you give them for running these Facebook and Instagram ads?
So people that are like working with kind of like a smaller business or a smaller budget.
Yep. Very small budget. They're kind of like, like I just started my business. I know I need to spend money on ads. Where do I start?
Yeah. I would say that like, it's almost like there's kind of two parts to that. It's almost like the one part is if they're a new brand and everything else like that, what I would say is that they need to start creating content, right? They need to start connecting and understanding the audience before they're spending, right? But then once they're kind of at that place where, hey, as a marketer, you have confidence that, okay, they're producing, they're putting out stuff, they're talking to their audience. Now you actually have something to work with as a marketer. The more organic like content that they can start producing on their own, then you just take you take that organic content that's working really well, and with a smaller budget, you can target a very specific audience and then just run that audience test. Like I said, find 5 different audiences and test them all at once for 24 hours and find the one that works, and then use the content that you're running with those other people or with the organic stuff that's working and just attach it to that audience. And then you can stay within a reasonable budget and just make sure that the client has good expectations that, hey, we are running on a small budget. It will take some time to gather enough data to make sure that we can drive like the ROI that you're looking for. But this is like the best path of success, right? Get content, test your audience, merge those together, and then keep optimizing and keep asking for more budget if you see results coming.
Amen to that one. Something I like you said in there is like if they have a small budget, you have to give it time. Like,
Yep.
because you can't make assumptions off small budgets. So definitely thank you for dropping those nuggets. You've dropped a lot of amazing stuff here. So thank you, Dallin.
Absolutely, man.
So to finish some stuff up, let's dive into the speed round. So what do you do for fun, man? Like, you can't be marketing all the time. What do you do for fun?
Right. So I mean, just until recently, I actually tore my pec, but I absolutely love like CrossFit and just like working out, but I just had surgery on my arm. So like right now it's just like spending time with my little girl. Like we just went to the Children's Museum yesterday. I was there with all the, the stay-at-home moms here in Utah. So I was the only dad in the whole entire place, but it was a lot of fun. So just being with my family right now, and then hopefully get back to the gym here as soon as I heal up. So.
Okay, awesome, man. So what would you tell your 20-year-old self? So how old are you right now? 29?
28. Yep.
28. So what would you tell yourself 8 years ago?
Chill out, man. Be patient,
Why do you say chill out? Yeah,
man, I just
elaborate.
I just felt like I was like there's so much pressure from everybody around you, right? To like, you got to go to college and you got to get a political science degree that's no use, right? You got to go do all this stuff and you got to get married and you have all this like pressure around you, right? And so you're kind of like trying to stay within these guidelines and basically do what people are telling you. But if I would have just listened to like myself at that time, like I never really wanted to go to college. Like I was always just kind of an entrepreneur. And so like for me, I would just have told myself, hey, you can make money doing anything, man. Like just keep working, right? Keep going after it. Keep learning. Like I loved learning. I didn't need to go to, college to figure that out. Right. And so for me, it would have just be starting a little bit earlier of just doing what I was passionate about and not waiting and doing everything that everybody else wanted me to do and finally figuring out that, holy crap, I just need to do what I want to do. So.
Okay, I like that, dude. Chill the fetch out.
That's right.
And do what you love, man. That's an right. Amen. So, yeah. Any updates in the online marketing industry? So maybe in the regards to Facebook or any tools that you use?
I'd say like the biggest changes for most Facebook marketers recently has been just the targeting, right? So like literally like just tons of parameters that you used to be able to target on Facebook is gone, right? And so like some of the important ones. Yeah, exactly. Like especially like income, right? Like being able to target like people who make over $100,000 a year, right? Like that's a big one, right? So for us, I
missed that one.
Yeah, me too. Homeowners, stuff like that, right? But like what we've been able to do is figure out creative ways. Like now that when we go in there, we will actually target based on like zip codes, like high income zip codes.
Okay.
And that helps us, like we've seen just in the last like couple of weeks, we've been using that targeting, and we've been able to find those people who are making more money just by where they live. And it's been really, really, really successful. So
interesting. Yeah. That's a sweet little trick. Use zip codes instead of the income parameter since it doesn't exist anymore.
Exactly. Yep.
Awesome. Favorite marketing book?
Yeah. So, my favorite book is probably the Story Brand Script by Donald Miller. I don't know if you're familiar with that one.
I've heard about that one. I actually have.
Yeah. It's so good. It just dives into just basic like storytelling. He talks about how like basically every movie you go to, right? Like how does Hollywood get us to sit into these like 3-hour long movies and like not even flinch or be able to use the bathroom, right? And it's like, it's because they use this very, very methodical approach to storytelling. And we use the same methodology in our storytelling for our coaches and all of our clients, and it works. So highly recommend it.
Awesome. So Story Brand. What's his name again?
Donald Miller. Yep.
Donald Miller. Awesome. Favorite thing about online marketing?
It's always changing. It's never a boring day. It's like, we wake up the next day and Facebook's backend looks completely different, right? Or you can't target anymore. You can't do this or that. So it's just always like changing, and that's fun for me. I can't stand like just doing the same thing over and over and over again. So.
Amen to that. Facebook is always changing. Sometimes it doesn't work too. Like the other day I was trying to duplicate an ad set, and it didn't transfer over all my data from my ads inside of my ad set. And I was like, this is retarded.
Yep. Story of our lives. That's what
I had to like go in. I got it to work, but I had to go in, duplicate the ads, and create a new ad set. So it's not always working.
Yeah, it's always fun, huh?
Yeah. So favorite marketing podcast?
Yeah. So
or favorite podcast in general?
Yeah, for me, like I love Grant Cardone's podcast. I don't necessarily like 100% like believe everything he teaches, but
me either, but
he's really like entertaining. And then like from like a marketing side, like all marketing is sales, right? So I've been in lots of different sales roles. And with all my clients, like they all need like that sales help, right? On that side of things. Usually they're really good coaches, but maybe they can't close deals. And so I always love listening to his podcast, kind of just gets you fired up and makes you like, just want to put your head down and work and just really understand that sales aspect of marketing. So it's really good.
Awesome. Grant Cardone, go check him out. And then what advice would you give every marketer in the world?
Yeah, I would say that like, aside from just like, learning and just like diving into those campaigns and really just, doing your research, I'd say just from like just front facing, like be transparent. Like one of the reasons why like we've been highly successful the last few years and are growing is because we're really transparent with people, and we don't tell them when like that we're going to just crush their campaign if we feel like we can't, right? So just like know what you're good at and what you're not good at, and don't lie about it. Just be transparent, be real. It doesn't mean that like you can't sell yourself. It just means that you need to be upfront and just be honest about it. And people will definitely gravitate more towards that than just hearing that, oh yeah, we're going to crush it, man. Like there's no way, like, oh, we never fail. It's like, yeah, of course you do. And that's why I like this podcast, and that you ask those questions of like, how did it fail? Because I think that's like a big part of marketing is learning from the mistakes as much as the successes. So
yeah, fully amen to that. One of the people I talked to, one of their big points that they talked about was just communicating with their clients, and like you said, being very transparent with them and educating them about what's going on. So that's one of the biggest problems I think we have in this industry is there's a lot of online marketers out there. They promise a lot of stuff up front and they're never transparent, and they create like a bad name even for an online marketer or an agency in general.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
I really like that advice. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
So advice now to any online company in the world, what would it be and why?
Okay, so any company, I would say it just comes down to like content creation. Like most companies that I see that are just, they kind of flop, or they come and go, or they come and they talk to us and they want to run ads, and then you end up not working with them, and you kind of look them up later and they're not even around. None of them, the ones that are gone, they didn't produce any content. You go on their Facebook page and there was like 3 posts when they were like starting out, right? And then there's like a year that's just like nothing there. Same on Instagram, or they hired some intern to just post like stock images on their Instagram account. And it's like, that's not gonna help you guys. So I would say create content that's like valuable, like rather than post like once a month with something that's like of value than just like throwing crap out there or not doing anything. Ultimately we tell our clients to produce 2 to 4 posts a day on their platforms, because that gives us data that we can analyze, that we can then use in our ads, and helps us to propel like their message. And we can tell them, hey, these 5 images or this 5 pieces of content worked really well. Go create more just like that. Right. So content. It's the only way to implement page strategies is if you have that kind of at your disposal.
Yep. Amen to that, dude. So I actually wrote like this little ebook, and I said content is king, but quality content trumps it. Like, a lot of, like you said, a lot of people will go out there and just post crappy content, but that's not going to get you anywhere. It's got to bring value, like you said. So yeah, we definitely agree to that.
We tested that too, and it didn't work. So we know for sure that
that's awesome, man.
And the quality. So
awesome, man. Well, any last tips and tricks that you want to drop?
Man, we've covered a lot. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. So it's been awesome.
Awesome, man. So where did these guys find you at, Dallin? If they want to hire you, if they want to follow you around,
Yeah.
Where do they find you at?
Just go to Facebook, facebook.com/Dallin Cottle official, and you can find me there. Just message me, reach out. That's probably the best way. So
awesome. And where do they find your business at?
So divulgemarketing.com, and you can find us on Facebook there for the business, facebook.com/divulge your brand, and you can find us there.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Dallin, for being on the show. And if you have any questions for Dallin, reach out to Dallin, and peace.
Thanks, Taylor.
Episode number 18. Wow, Dallin dropped a lot of value here. So let's just have a little recap here. So campaigns fail because of time, money, and the lack of the business's processes on the back end. So bad customer service, things like that. The next thing Dallin talked about that was very valuable when running Facebook ads for your client for the first time. The first phase that he does is he tests, and then after he's done testing his audiences, he builds his offer. After he builds his offer, he dives into the creative content side of things, and usually he's only spending $1,000 in this process. And once he's spent that $1,000, he has everything locked into place to ready, fire, and aim and start scaling his campaigns. The last thing that I want to touch bases on that he talked about was connect with your clients. Make sure you have good relationships with your clients. This is just going to help your campaigns. And that is the end of episode number 18. Don't forget, guys, my course is coming out so soon. I can't even think about it anymore. I need to go crank on it. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode number 18, and peace. 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 Peace.